Hi, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of the 2 Minute Drill. I'm James Escarcega. As we get ready for the possibility of a high school sports season starting in March or April, we wanted to bring back with us today Ray Lokar from goldstandardcoaching.com, as we'll start banning about how we can get back from this current pandemic that started way back in March. We tapped his services back then, and he's agreed to come back and join us again today. So we both have something in common. We both have won CIF championships as coaches. So although I swore he still owes me a ring from back in 2000, but we won't talk about that right now. So let's welcome back into the 2 Minute Drill, the one and only Coach Ray Lokar. Coach, it's great to see you, sir.
Good to see you. Yeah, the ring thing, that was a principal budgetary decision. That
A few since then, Coach. It's all good. I was hoping for a T-shirt, but even then it worked out okay. Happy New Year, Coach. What are we doing these days? How are we keeping busy?
Well, we're kind of going to talk about that a little bit because we're trying to stay ready and sharpen the axe, right? I have a son that's a freshman in college, trying to stay ready for college baseball season if they ever give it the go. And if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So that's kind of been our motto since things got shut down in March. We didn't stop in March. We continued to train and hope that, that 2 weeks was going to work, and then May was going to work, and then June was going to work, and maybe we'd do something over the summer that was meaningful. And so here we are, still trying to stay ready. And he's had some good guidance from his coaches, at the University of Laverne. They've done a lot of stuff. So I've been doing a lot with him. And then, a lot of this Zoom stuff, there's a lot of time to talk about it and think. And I've been writing and trying to stay ready for when things open up and we can get out there and start spreading the good word again.
Exactly. We're going to break this again, like we did back in March. We're going to break this up to 2 videos. We're going to take 2 different perspectives from it. One as a student athlete or a parent, and then the other video as a coach. So I think there's 2 really total different entities here. So a couple points we want to really hammer around here with student athletes as we get started, Ray. One of them, I think right now, and I think it's the most important thing for athletes and parents, is really how to prepare mentally for the current state of play. So how do we do this, Coach?
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple of things, James. If we relate, you mentioned the CIF championship back then. One of the things that we always adopted was we wanted to play every possession the same, whether it was a championship game or in practice. And I think you can approach every day like that too. And in this whole preparation of if you're going to get ready to play, going out and working out in the front yard and hitting and throwing and doing some conditioning, and he's got his weights. All of those things should be the same as they would be if he was getting ready for the season in a couple of weeks. So when you raise a kid or a team to develop that mindset that we're going to compete every day as if, our T-shirt said, as if it was a 4th quarter in March, right? Then all of a sudden that single play in the middle of a practice or that single day in the middle of the off season isn't really any different. You're training with the same kind of purpose. So, I think that mentality is what comes first. Obviously, we need to do more things on an individual basis, and individual conditioning should never cease, right? So, we've spent a lot of time talking about training and conditioning, and the best thing about now and all the time that you have really is that you can change the modalities of your training now. I mean, throughout the course of the week, he's going to be on his free weights, he's going to do his band work, he's going to throw, he's going to hit, he's going to run, he's going to be on a bike. There's all sorts of, he's got yoga a couple of times a week. So there's all sorts of things that kids can do to maintain their conditioning and their individual skills. When it comes to mental skills, you have to look for excuses not to learn, right? You have Zoom, you've got YouTube. There's so much information now that you actually have time to do it. You know, you're during the regular season, coaches always say, boy, if I had time to do more film, or if I had to do, well, now you got time, right? So, you know, the training videos that are out there, whether it's baseball or basketball or speed, quickness, agility, you know, all that stuff is there for the taking. We just have to make sure that we stay motivated to do it. And that's a hard switch to flip when you're a high school junior, right? So if there's any young parents or younger kids out there, you know, that are 10, 11, 12, that are serious about sports, let's build that mindset now.
Ray, one of the guys who I've listened to during the past 6 months is Dr. Michael Gervais, who has an audio podcast called that you can find on Apple and everywhere. And he's also got a new audio book out, which you can get on audible.com with a membership to Audible Plus, called Compete to Create with Pete Carroll. And he mentioned and I don't want to, I mean, it's so good. I don't want to ruin a lot of what's in there, but one of the quotes really hit home to me, which was noise is meaningless community. But it's all around you. 100% of the time, you have to have the capacity to control you. Everything else is noise. Ray, it really is important that the environment of your house is everything these days. That we have to really control what the noise is to your kids.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I'm glad you said his name first, Gervais, because I always said it was Jervis. He is a great guy. He's got some great stuff. But yeah, that the voices that you hear from everybody, one of the toughest things is to filter out the things that are not meaningful and focus on the things that are. And that's, you know, as we filter it down, sure, it becomes your household that helps you do that. But then that goes through to your friends in the community and your coaches and your extra coaches, you know, travel club trainers or whatever. And that peer pressure that comes from outside of the house is really, really tough to deal with. And so a good support system inside the house to make sure the kids are focused on what's important is crucial. And forgetting the things that aren't important is just as important.
Okay, so now we're you know, I'm the fictitious senior now who's about ready to graduate here. I've got about roughly 5 or 6 months to go, but I'm still a student athlete. You know, I want to play college. You know, I want to play collegiately. You know, there's some, and I think everyone needs to understand, or at least the seniors need to understand here, Coach. You have options here. You know, you still have a 4-year college or junior college. So for me, there's some bullet points here, and let's start here with Ray with working for the high school senior here. Working with your high school counselor is so vitally important right now.
Sure. So, you know, experience with that. I've got 4 kids in college. 3 of them have graduated with advanced degrees, and, you know, 2 of them, and my current one, all had played multiple sports in high school and had scholarship opportunities and options. So that was a good thing. My youngest daughter played 3 sports in high school and decided she just wanted to be a student. And till she got on campus and the track coach got a hold of her, she ended up running the 800 and ran track and field. So I all ended up competed collegiately. But going through that process, right from the get-go, I think it was important to take control of your own recruitment and not wait around for people to find you, or not need to go to some showcase and hope that a coach that might need somebody at the position that you happen to play just happens to be there to see it at the time that you happen to do something good, right? Because there's just as good a chance that, you know, at these exposure events, you get exposed for things that you don't do so well. Okay, so make sure that you're prepared before you go to those was always, you know, one of the guidelines that we used. Once you had all those choices, I mean, if you are a high academic student, that time has passed, right? A lot of the high academic and most desirable schools, obviously, are past their application times. And unless you're an elite recruit, that's not going to be waived. And if you're still available at this time, you know, sorry, you're not an elite recruit, right? If there's no offers on the table. So now you got to look at those choices. There are four-year colleges all over the country that have open enrollment that don't have those guidelines. So now you filter down and find what schools those are. If you're interested in playing sports, then you need to have someone that has been honest with you, that evaluates your realistic ability and what level you should play. That's a big problem in our world of youth and high school sports today, right? People, A, aren't honest with kids, and B, families don't want to believe it. Everybody's gonna, go to the Pac-10, Pac-12, or the SEC and get a Division I full scholarship. Well, those are far and few between, and we all know the statistics on kids that end up, in that situation. So now all of a sudden some more choices come in, and you got to do your homework. Where might I want to go? And then it becomes a marketing and promotion thing. We always reversed everything. We tried to figure out where we might want to go, what schools we might want to be interested in for, location, degree, how they take care of their alumni, job placement at the end, considering those kind of things, as well as does it have the kind of program that I'd like. Again, doing your research, finding programs that you would be interested in an area that you would be interested in living and can afford to do that is huge. But the options are still out there, and the world isn't over. Look at it as if you were injured this year. You had a season-ending injury your senior year. How would we go about it now? And that's how you kind of have to approach it.
It's a great point. And I think one thing people have to realize too, Coach, with JC, at least in the state of California, I understand if you do it right, your tuition is free. You still got to pay for your books,
right?
Still got to pay for your food and everything, but your tuition is free. Nothing wrong with that. So let's flip it here and talk about the underclassmen. Okay, I'm a sophomore, junior. Again, one of the most important things, work with your college counselor to make sure that you're taking the classes right. But you also have to have a plan here, right, Coach?
Yeah, I think that's the one of the great things about educational-based athletics is you have all of those supports on campus, right? Not only do you have your coach that at least is available for a phone call if a college coach might call, but you can also get him to send stuff out with you. The reality is that college coaches can't afford to miss on a kid, right? The last thing that they want is for any athlete to go to a competing university and come back and say, I sent film to Coach so-and-so and he never got back to me, right? So somebody's going to look at your film, right? Whether it's the head coach, whether it's an assistant coach, whether it's some grad assistant or some volunteer assistant, somebody's going to see the video. So that's the good thing, and in a lot of sports, that video doesn't have to be game tape. Like, kids are recruited all the time in baseball on work that they do in their cage and in the bullpen, or fielding ground balls in the infield. Rarely is game action sent out besides just little clips. Basketball, you want to see them a little bit more competitive. Same with football a little bit, but we've certainly seen those football offers start coming in, or interest get a little bit heated up just with combine type performances, if you have the measurables. So getting those things on film is important. Doesn't have to be high tech. Get some things on film, send them to those schools that you're interested. But the number one thing that you alluded to is talk to your college counselor, make sure that you have the classes that are necessary, and keep the grades in a situation where they're going to help you get a little bit of financial assistance as well. But when I talk to youth sports organizations, Little League kids, 12, parents always ask that question. Get a tutor before you get a pitching coach.
Okay, let's start with another point here. I think for students today, regardless of grades or like grade level you're at, if you're playing athletics, I think it's most important. One of the most important things is developing the right mindset off and on the field and how to best to use social media. This can go in so many directions, Coach, but let's just kind of condense it down here a little bit. And again, I'm going to use Dr. Gervais as a great quote here. He said, change and anxiety are intimately lined. It is the present moment where wisdom is revealed and human performance is expressed. Coach, you got to have the right mindset these days. If you don't, you're going to have some anxiety for sure.
Yeah, for sure. That's where my youngest's development was different than my older kids, right? He was born in 2002 and things started to explode online a little bit. And so early on, I had to have that talk with him and players that I coach about what I call it the rule of 4, right?
Yes,
whatever you put online is for everybody. It's forever. And people are really slow to forgive and forget, right? So we all know and have heard the stories about kids that have lost, scholarships because of something that they put online, or something that they said pops up years and years later. The Josh Hader, the pitcher for the Milwaukee Brewers, he made the All-Star team. All of a sudden, people knew him and thought he was important, and they found something that he wrote on Twitter 8 years ago that was, inappropriate, and that comes back to haunt you. So clearly, if you think you're a recruitable athlete, the first thing you should do is go back and smear all the stuff and delete everything that might be there. But screenshots last forever, so things are out there for those kids. The other thing is, people think that that's just a place to mess around, but not everybody knows you're messing around. A lot of trash talk happens on Twitter that might be in jest or in good fun, especially now, when kids play outside of their school. They might have a buddy on another school that they play travel ball with or whatever. And they'll say something about what's going to happen in the game or something that already happened in the game that will sound like, it's trash talking or aggressive, but those two kids are messing around because they know each other. Well, everybody else doesn't know that they're messing around. And that tends to snowball and can filter through a school community or a community, or as we see, a nation for that matter. So, words matter. And, we all get in our, debates and disputes. And, if you think you're going to have trouble justifying what you said, then you probably shouldn't say it, right? I can't tell you how many times I've written something and, delete. And then, like Herm Edwards said, don't hit send.
Last one here, Coach, I think it's really important. Let's just touch on this quickly, which is maintaining for student athletes today. As we're about ready to hit the field, you got to maintain contact with your friends and fellow teammates.
Yeah, it's funny. I just had a conversation with my son about this yesterday. There's so much opportunity to do that through social media and, FaceTiming and, all of the visual things that they can do. But he made a good point, especially in a team aspect, is I'll go back to this. His college coach, before they left for Christmas, said, during this time, work on things that you're not good at, right? Mm-hmm. And it made me think that kids naturally are going to work on the things that they're good at because they're fun. That's why they got good at them. And so by being, encouraged to work on the other things, they're going to work on all of that stuff, really, right? So from an athletic sense, I thought that was great. But it made me think when he mentioned this, from a social sense, that's true too. He said, you know, you're naturally going to keep in touch with your best friends. But during this time, if you only keep up in touch with your best friends, then the situation where there are cliques that are developed within your program gets stronger and stronger and worse. So group group texts, group chats, Zoom stuff with everybody involved is crucial. And you know, when they were doing workouts in the fall, they would mix up cohorts, and you know, their groups would be, you know, in groups of 10 at different parks, and different people would get mixed up for the next group, right? So you can develop a little bit of camaraderie. I do think that we are really caught up over the last several months in things that we can't do, and have not taken note of all the things that we can do, right? Somebody the other day was complaining that, well, you know, we can't even eat outside anymore. Well, in the same community, I can't. I can go downtown. I can order takeout from any one of the great restaurants that are downtown, and then I can go a block away to Camino Park and find a picnic table. I'm eating outside, right? I'm buying outside food, eating outside. You can. So, same thing with workouts, you know, or getting together with friends. You know, you can't sit arm to arm next to each other in a movie. Probably shouldn't do so in a car for very long. But you can get together. You certainly shouldn't be in a small, you know, bedroom playing video games with 5 guys, right? Or a hotel room on a trip. But you can have distanced, masked, responsible contact with friends, you know, at a park or at somebody's house. You know, my place, you know, got a pool in the courtyard. We can spread out, and we had Thanksgiving dinner and Christmas Eve outside, distanced, as safe as it can be. So you know, taking advantage of all of the things that we can do is more important than moaning and groaning about the things that you can't do.
So true. Just wanted to throw it out there, you know. And you're right. You can grab a lunch somewhere, go to a park on a table, bring your iPad or you know, or a book that you're reading, and just lose yourself. And it allows you to get some air, to get away from home. And I think it's so important, you know. And hey, you know, you can go to the park and go to a what I would call a concrete court. They have baskets. You know, you're by yourself. Go shoot the ball. Go do you know you go do your thing. Now, you know, I'm not saying to do it with there's 15 or 20 people there, but if you're by yourself, you're not harming anybody. You know, I go to the park twice a week just to go away from home, and I make sure there's nobody within yards of me. You know, so this narrative of I'm stuck at home. You're not stuck at home. You just have to do. If you're going to go out, you do it responsibly, Coach.
No, on Saturday, my youngest son and my oldest son, and he brought his son, who's 7. We went to a local school. You know, hit some, threw some, took some ground balls. The little one chased bad throws, and as we were walking in, there was a kid, looked like a high school junior, senior, had a pretty nice shot. He was on their outdoor courts that I was surprised still had nice chain nets up and not bent rims. You know, everything was good, and he had set cones out, and he was getting himself a good workout, right? There are things that we can do. Quit worrying about the things that we can't do.
Couldn't have expressed it better. Coach Lokar, your Twitter handle, please.
At Coach Loke. It's the easiest place to get started.
And I have put a banner at the bottom of the screen here, which also has your email address and your website for goldstandardcoaching.com. Coach, thank you.
That's great.